Welcome. My name is Dina Percia, and I am really excited to be with you today in the culminating week of CASY summer camp. You made it. In this workshop, STIMulation, somatic transformation through improvisational motions of movement and sound. We will explore the act of stimming as an embodied ritual practice and an autistic tool for self-discovery and self-care. This grew out of my own exploration and practice of stimming, which emerged as a sort of improvisational, free-form dance and sound making. Um, and it serves as an embodiment practice that continues to support me in body mind processing, self regulation, and creative expression. So, to orient to today's flow, I'll start with some slides to ground and frame our process. And then we'll move into the experiential portion where you'll have the opportunity to move and sound yourself and to play around with movement and sound. And then we'll return together for integration before ending our ritual. I invite you to tend to your body mind's needs throughout. And by body mind, I mean the integrated, non-dualistic system of body and mind, or the mind as an embodied phenomenon. If you're interested in using a sensory object or a stim toy during the experiential portion, I invite you to grab that now if you haven't already. And please know that anything that is offered here by me is an invitation that you are welcome to take and explore, or to let go of if it doesn't work for you. I am here in service of your body, mind, sovereignty, and trust that you know what's best for you in each moment. Okay, so I'll share my intentions for this time. So my intentions for our time together is to create a ritual space for body, mind, autonomy, authenticity, and unmasking. To invite you into a somatic exploration of improvised body mind expression through sensory-based movement and sound. And my sort of overarching intention through this offering is to reframe and reclaim the act of stimming as a form of embodied autistic knowledge, expression, self-care, and play. I like to light a candle to symbolize the opening of a ritual space to sort of contain our experience. And this can serve as our collective candle. And if you have your own candle, I invite you to light that as well. And as I light our collective candle, I just invite you to take a moment to reflect on your intention for this time. What brings you here? And what do you want to explore or receive in this ritual? Okay, here's our flame. It'll stay lit through our time together. Okay. So to begin, I'd like to offer a definition of stimming to help just sort of frame this workshop, and for anyone who is watching who might not be familiar. I'm using autistic scholar Dr. Nick Walker's definition of stimming, as I find it to be non-pathologizing and broadly inclusive. Walker states, stimming is any action that provides some form of sensory stimulation in order to facilitate, intentionally or otherwise, some particular cognitive or sensory motor process or access to some particular state or capacity of consciousness or sensory motor experience. So as that definition percolates in you, I want to emphasize stimming as any action that stimulates our senses in order to enable, whether intentionally or not, some body-mind process or provide some access to some state of consciousness or sensory motor experience. And just to review, our sensory system consists of vision, sight, hearing, tactile, touch, taste, smell, vestibular, which is our sense of balance and movement, comes from the inner ear. Our interoception, which is our internal sense and the messages we receive internally. Proprioception, which is our sense or awareness of our body in space. And motor skills encompass both our gross motor, which are large movements like walking, running, and fine motor, which are small, precise movements. So my orientation is rooted in the neurodiversity paradigm and neuroqueer theory. The neurodiversity paradigm, if you're not familiar, is a perspective that understands neurodiversity as a natural and valuable form of human diversity and does not subscribe to the belief that there is one normal or healthy type of brain or mind or one right style of neurocognitive functioning. For a proper deep dive into the neurodiversity paradigm and neuroqueer theory, because we don't have time here, I will point you in the direction of its origin sources, Dr. Nick Walker and Nick's book, Neuroqueer Heresies. You could also find their work at neuroqueer.com, as well as the work of Remy Yurgo and their book, Authoring Autism. Both of their perspectives and body of work has been deeply influential and inspirational to me. So Walker holds the term neuroqueer as both a verb and an adjective, but I'm centering its verb use for today. So what is neuroqueering? Part of the definition that Walker gives is, quote, engaging in practices intended to undo and subvert one's own cultural conditioning and one's ingrained habits of neuronormative and or heteronormative performance with the aim of reclaiming one's capacity to give more full expression to one's uniquely weird potentials and inclinations. Performance, to kind of just take a sidestep, performance comes from queer theory and specifically Judith Butler's work on gender. And her view that gender is an active and fluid doing, a continuous becoming, as opposed to a fixed being or unchanged identity. So performance meaning a set of actions, gestures, tendencies that individuals repeatedly enact and express. So in neuroqueer theory, instead of gender identity and performance, the same idea is applied to neurocognitive style and functioning. So from this perspective, I am proposing that stimming can be framed and entered into as a neuroqueer practice, an act or action that seeks to queer or undo, subvert, disrupt, or liberate ourselves from any ingrained habits of neuronormative, or in other words, neurotypical performance, as well as heteronormative performance, with the intention of reclaiming our capacity to fully express our uniquely weird tendencies, desires, and potentials. And by weird, I mean strange, odd, or queer in its original definition. Weird as in different or diverging from what is deemed quote unquote normal, even though there's no such thing as normal, just typical. So from this perspective, stimming, or an action of sensory stimulation, can be positioned as a universally freeing or liberatory act, a practice that I believe any and all body minds can explore and participate in. So holding this neuroqueer lens, I wanted to offer an additional viewpoint of stimming that will help us deepen further into this inquiry. Autistic researchers Nolan and McBride conceive of stimming as a kind of play. They reframe it as an unstructured and open-ended exploration. So with that, I invite you to take a moment to consider the possibility that your stimming could not only be an intentional practice and sensory motor exploration, but one that is pleasurable and playful. What if you approached your stimming as a form of play? So before we enter into the experiential portion, I wanted to introduce the work of Vasily Kandinsky. He was a Russian painter and art theorist and one of the pioneers of abstraction or non-representational art. And Kandinsky's perspective on the form and function of art emphasized the synthesis of the visual and the auditory senses. He heard sounds as color, and he experienced color as having its own particular emotional essence and meaning. He explored the relationship between color and motion in his art and their potential to evoke a certain kind of mood. Kandinsky believes that abstract art could establish a line of communication directly from the artist's inner vision to the viewer's imagination and elicit a specific emotional response. Kandinsky believed that the purpose of art was to convey the artist's unique inner vision. He wrote about what he termed inner necessity, which is the need for humans to express themselves creatively. Quote, "Every artist, as a creator, has something in him which calls for expression. The artist's work, when it springs from inner necessity, will inevitably find its own form and style, and both will be spiritual in essence." Kandinsky made a connection with spirituality and art. And if you don't prefer the term spiritual, I invite you to use transpersonal or something beyond personal identity, or the words psyche, soul, or animating life force are also interchangeable. So as living beings, we inherently have the capacity to create. Art is defined by the Oxford Dictionary as, quote, "the expression or application of human creative skill and imagination." So with that, the way that we move through our lives, our embodied performance, our body's actions and expressions repeatedly can be considered a form of art in and of itself. We are creating and recreating ourselves every day through this idea of performance. And as creators, we have our own inner necessity that calls for expression. And when the opportunity to manifest authentically, this inner necessity will have its own style expressed through our unique or your unique body mind. So part of the intention of neuroqueering is to support us in fully expressing our unique tendencies and potentials. And with stimming, we have an internal need or necessity to authentically move or to make a sound or sounds. And each body mind will have its own form and its own style of moving and sounding. We'll have our own style of stimming. So, as we begin to transition into our movement exploration, I invite you to ponder the questions: what in you is calling for expression? What is necessary for your body mind to express through movement and sound in this moment? So we're going to start moving in silence while I offer just a few prompts for us to drop in. And then in a few minutes, I'll start music. And we'll be in this exploration for about 10 minutes. And then we'll circle back for some reflection before we close. So to begin, I invite you to find a comfortable posture that can allow some movement in your body, and invite you to bring your attention inward. And you can support an internal focus by either closing your eyes if that feels comfortable and good and safe, or just softening your gaze and lowering it a couple of feet in front of you. And there are a few entry points into this exploration. You can start with a stim that you use. It could be any stim. You can begin with a sensory object or a stim toy that you use. Or you can begin in stillness and listen and stay open to what wants to happen, how you want to move, or how you want to make sound. No matter how you start, I invite you to tune in and listen, or sense or feel into your body mind. And find something that's happening or something that wants to happen, maybe an impulse that you feel drawn to. Taking notice of sensations, noticing any impulses, and begin to explore through movement or making sounds. And allow your movements and sounds to evolve as your body mind wants, leaning into what feels good in the moment, what feels pleasurable. There's no right or wrong way to do this. Even in stillness, there's movement. So just inviting a curious, gentle stance with yourself. And the invitation is to open to your inner necessity, to what wants to emerge out of you, to open to what is unfolding in and through your body mind. Okay, welcome back. So take your time coming back into the room if your eyes were closed. So orient to the present moment by opening your eyes, slowly looking around your space, tuning into sounds or smells in your immediate environment, maybe touching one of your sensory objects. And we'll just take a few moments to reflect on our experience before we close. So, what did you notice or discover through your movement and sound exploration? Noticing how you feel now from when you started. Is there a feeling, image, sensation, or a knowing or insight that you want to take with you or explore further? You may want to stay with this a bit longer to continue to integrate your experience. You can just sit and let it metabolize, or you can use another form of expression like writing, drawing, more movement. And know that you can return to this practice or a practice like this anytime. So I'll close our ritual space by blowing out our collective flame. And thank you so much for joining me today.